Welcome to the top 16 of the Oceania International Players Cup. Welcome back everyone to more from the Sable Eyes. I'm Mitch, and today we're going to take a look at a couple of games from my top 16 experience in the Players' Cup for Oceania. I actually paired against a player who unfortunately could not attend the tournament on the third Sunday, so I did manage to get through into the next round, so that was round 7. I managed to sneak through with a free victory, and then ended up against PikaRom in the next round. Now, I'm playing Dragapult VMAX. PikaRom is a little bit of a tough matchup, so what we'll do is we'll jump over to those games now, and I'll show you exactly how round 8 went for the Players' Cup. So whilst we are loading in here, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing. There's a button down below. You can always unsubscribe later if you wish to. And whilst you're there, give us a like. We've managed to win the coin flip here, which is always very important playing Dragapult. And we've got what can only be described as a pretty good hand. We've got Jirachi, Dragapult V, and Energy to attach. So as long as we have a decent start, we should be a-okay, and that's perfect as well. A Marshadow on our opponent's side of the field means that we are going to be able to get Shrine to stick at some point in the game. They'll either discard our Shrine if we choose to play it down, or they might consider, well, they might get knocked out by us, which would be great. So, Marshadow start for our opponent, not ideal. Just trying to decide here, do I go for the Mysterious Treasure or for the Marnie? It's a bit of a gamble here. I do have access to another Jirachi if I want. Mysterious Treasure might be a little bit safer, but I might not get a draw supporter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give myself the draw supporter now. If my opponent full blitzes, then I've at least got an escape board on a Jirachi. The chances are that my opponent's not going to Marnie in PikaRom anyway, so we should be a-okay. Now we'll see, can our opponent get themselves out of this kind of awkward start? Obviously, having only a Marshadow on the field is not that big of a problem because PikaRom can very easily get going. It's the fact that it's down early, which is the good thing for me. They're going for Guzma Hala now, so they could be looking for like a skateboard and Speed, Lightning, Energy, and a Stadium as well. And those are pretty much all the things that they need. Managed to discard a Lightning Energy as well, but no Stadium off of the Guzma Hala. So that suggests to me that the Stadium is prized. If we can get a knockout on this Marshadow, this Shrine of Punishment could stay in play for a very, very long time, which I'm personally very excited about. They've actually played down an Eldegoss here, which is also a very strange play, and they've attached an energy to it. So this looks like it's a big old brick. They have the Thunder Mountain in hand. This is a massive, massive issue for our opponent. We could very easily just storm home to the game here. We'll go for the Stellar Wish again. We find Professor's Research, which is really, really good. We don't want to be Marnieing knowing that our opponent's hand is as bad as it is. We'll attach the Escape Board, replace the Stadium, and then Research. We are guaranteed to have this Shrine in play for the rest of the game now. Like, it's almost... I don't think it's actually possible at all for our opponent to replace it. So, we are in an absolutely perfect position. We can grab the Dragapult VMAX, we can promote that, take a knockout on the active, and put 50 onto the bench. And we've got the boss in hand as well. If they can't draw it out, then we are going to be able to win this game quite comfortably. So, no matter what happens here, we will be feeling pretty good. I will throw down this other Dragapult just in case something goes wrong. But we take the knockout on the active, 50 onto the bench, and at this stage, I'm thinking, cool. Well, that's probably a win against PikaRom. There's not many PikaRom decks that can come back from this kind of bad start. They really need to get the full blitz on turn 1. So Eldegoss now could potentially still float up, but they need to find another Pokemon, and unfortunately, there's nothing in hand. So that's game 1. Very unfortunate from my opponent. So hopefully for my opponent's sake, he can get a bit of a better start here. From memory, he elects to go second in this game. So we will go first again, which I'm a big fan of. I like getting attachments, which is always, always good. We've got ourselves a Dragapult here and a Giratina, but unfortunately we don't have a Jirachi. I'm actually tossing up here, do I put the Giratina into the active? One of the most important things that I've found against PikaRom is that you don't want them to full blitz into your Dragapult. So even though we don't get the ability from the Giratina, we do at least get the opportunity to put the Dragapult onto the bench rather than in the active. So that is always good for us. We've actually managed to find 3 mulligans here, so my opponent's struggling again to get Pokemon, and they've started Dedenne, which is not good again for us. A very, very nice. We can attach an energy to this Dragapult, and then what we can actually do is we can play a quick ball here. We'll probably discard one of these many Mysterious Treasures, grab ourselves a Jirachi. We can put that Jirachi into the field of play, scoop up the Giratina so that we can use that later, and then put the Jirachi into the active. So this, I feel like, is a really strong play from my point of view. The chances of us getting punished for having that Dragapult in the active are very slim now. We can grab a Professor's Research for next turn, and we can probably even place down the Escape Board if we want. There's no real chance that our opponent's going to be disrupting our hand. PikaRom doesn't really do that turn 1, and also the Escape Board isn't going to get knocked off by a Tool Scrapper. They just don't have it. So we'll grab ourselves another Jirachi just in case they do take the knockout, and then leave it at that. Hold the Escape Board for next turn, because we're not going to lose it anyway. Even if we do get the Jirachi knocked out, it's not a problem. So our opponent needs to get this Dedenne out of the active, but again, they are able to very easily get their GXs attacking. PikaRom is not, it's not impossible for us to see that attack. We've got a Guzma and Hala on turn 1, again, discarding 2 Reset Stamp, so there's 2 ways that they could have disrupted our hand. And they'll probably go and grab those 3 cards again, the Speed Lightning and the Escape Board, and they've missed the Thunder Mountain again. Is it likely that they've got it in their hand? Maybe. They've gone for the Speed Lightning energy onto the Dedenne, attaching Escape Board and passing. So I am in a red-hot chance to try and win this game here. We are going to Mysterious Treasure, get rid of that Giratina, find the Dragapult, although I could potentially win the game a little bit easier if I go for the Jet Assault here. So I'm tossing up, well, what am I more likely to get off of a Research? Am I likely to get the Jet Assault, or do I need to get the Dragapult VMAX into play for later? I opt to go for the VMAX, because even if I don't manage to get the win here, I will still be in a really strong spot. I've got Zigzagoon and Scoop Up Net. All I need is one more Zigzagoon, and this game will be over. I'll go for the Acro Bike here, and I find Shrine of Punishment off of that Acro Bike, so that's the extra tick that I need. We can scoop up the Zigzagoon, attach the energy, and unfortunately for my opponent, bricking twice in loser's bracket and going on to lose this round is very unfortunate. Well played to you, MJ99. I'm sorry about that one. So that victory, no matter how it came, even though it was very unfortunate for our opponent, puts me through into round 9. There are only 2 more rounds that I need to win after this one to try and get myself into that top 16 tournament. I need to win round 9, 10, and 11 to get myself into losers finals, which would be the last 3 players standing. So we'll see whether or not I can get there. I'm actually going to show you the next game now. It's another PikaRom, and hopefully we can manage to get across the line in this one. So into the round now, we are playing against James Cox, who's a very, very strong player in the Oceania region. He is also playing PikaRom, as I mentioned, so hopefully we actually get ourselves a game here. We've managed to win the coin flip again, which is good, so we will go first, and we'll see how we go. We've got ourselves a Dragapult and an Energy, which is all we can ask for, but we don't have access to that Jirachi, which is unfortunate. It's not the end of the world, though. We could potentially find ourselves something off of an Acro Bike if we want to. There's a Quick Ball, so that's pretty solid. We will use that Quick Ball here, discard a Mysterious Treasure, and grab ourselves a Jirachi. We can chuck that onto the bench, and if we do find a way to switch, we can get into it. Unfortunately, we are not going to be able to do that, but what we can do is we can grab ourselves an Energy here, which will give ourselves the chance to get a 2-energy Dragapult VMAX in the active on turn 2. We now, unfortunately, though, need to hope that our opponent misses the full blitz. If they do, we might have a chance. If they don't, and they hit those 3 energy, then it might be a little bit awkward considering the Dragapult will already be half hit. But it's okay. We've got ourselves Jirachi in the backup, and every single card that we have in our hand is very strong as well. So we're not in a bad spot at all. I am unhappy, though, that my opponent has started Jirachi. Obviously, playing the Jirachi build opposed to the straight Dedenne build means that there is a little bit more flexibility. We can see a Volkner coming out here. Volkner is usually not the supporter that people use when they're going for that turn 1 full blitz, although it isn't actually that hard for my opponent to get all the cards that they need. They could very easily have a quick pull for a Coco Prism or even the Stadium in their hand already. So we'll see what they get off of the Volkner here. Obviously a Lightning Energy will probably be the go, but it could be for a quick ball or something similar. Another thing that's also very concerning about Dragapult is that 2 Electro Powers could potentially take a knockout, which would pretty much just end the game. If PikaRom takes 2 prizes before I've even had a chance to set up, then we are in big trouble. They're going for Boltund here though, so maybe not expecting to get that full blitz. There's a Raichu, there's a Boltund and a Switch. So they'll be going into the Boltund here, they'll be able to attach and then accelerate with Electrify. This is actually pretty solid for us. They've not got the PikaRom down, there's no energy yet, so we have a chance, if possible, we can get ourselves a couple of knockouts here. Now, we're going to discard this energy and grab the Escape Board. We can put that onto the Jirachi and attach it. We'll use the Mysterious Treasure to discard the Scoop Up Net to try and find that Dragapult VMAX. We could potentially get ourselves a knockout on Jirachi here, and I feel like that would be a really solid play. The thing about the Jirachi lists when going up against Dragapult is that there is always the risk that we can, the Dragapult player can take one single prize knockout on the Jirachi and find that they win the game a little bit easier. Unfortunately, we're not into anything that we need just yet, but we can find another Dragapult. Get that ready. Just having a look through here. Do I have the cards that I need to get myself going here? I'm going to research. My opponent didn't seem to have an amazing hand. It's still better than nothing. We actually do find the Zigzagoon and the Scoop Up here. And I'm going to play down the Shrine just to get a tick, maybe. Although, to be fair, it could be worth holding on to because we don't want our opponent to be able to just replace both of our Shrine of Punishment. So maybe we'll hold on to that, put down the double tick on the Zigzagoon. We'll hit into the Boltund here, which is very good, and take the knockout on the Jirachi on the bench. And now we have all of our prizes lined up on the board. 3 from a Raichu, and 2 from the Boltund will give us the game. We just need to make sure that we can set that knock-up out at some point. Set up that knockout? Set out that knockout? What are we talking about? There's a bit of a stumble over the words there. Another Jirachi comes down and a Tapu Koko Prism, so we are likely to see an attack this turn. Here comes the Dedenne as well. And Dedenne could possibly be a better target than that Boltund because PikaRom does play Mallow and Lana, so I wouldn't be surprised to see that coming out here. That tends to be the supporter of choice for PikaRom up against Dragapult. Here comes the tag call, so we probably will see it. But if they do use Mallow and Lana, then we could be in a decent spot. We've got access to other Dragapults, we can do other stuff. So it's not the end of the world. Using tag call, they've got 2 PikaRoms and a Mallow and a Guzma and Hala out from those 2 tag calls. So they've got pretty much everything that they need in their hand to get sorted. We don't know, though, whether they're going to be able to get the energy that they want. Looks like they might have picked up the Stadium in their Dedenne there. So they are getting rid of a couple of energy, going into the Raichu and Raichu. They can just attach and Tandem Shock, which is very painful for us. It means that now we need to find ourselves a Escape Board to get out of the active. So we've got a couple of things we need to do. We're going to put a new Dragapult VMAX into play. We'll get rid of the old one. We can grab ourselves probably a Jirachi just to thin these out of the deck. We don't need any more, so we'll get rid of them. The one that's in play is likely to stay there for the rest of the game because we have those 2 VMAXs in the field of play. Just double checking here, what is the best option? Do I go for the Zigzagoon perhaps? We'll get an extra tick here. I'm not expecting to play down any more Pokemon, so we may as well get that out now. And we'll put 10 damage onto the Jirachi just in case we need to do any spicy knockouts. We've got ourselves an energy and a Scoop Up Net, but we don't have a way to get out of the active here, which is very unfortunate. So we might find ourselves in a bit of an awkward spot now. If we were just able to find that one Escape Board, we might have been able to really put our mark on this game, but unfortunately, that's not going to happen here. we are still a little bit safe in the sense that it is kind of awkward for our opponent to take a knockout on this Dragapult here, but they've got the Raichu, there's the energy on there already. They could use their GX attack if they want, or they could just switch. It's kind of awkward, to say the very least. Now, that Zigzagoon tick probably should have gone onto the Raichu this turn. I don't think that there was any real reason to put it down onto the Jirachi. In hindsight, probably would have been better on the active, but that's why we play, right? We play to try and figure out whether or not the plays we're making are worth it. Looks like they are going to go for an attachment here. The question is that attachment going to be to the Raichu? They're going to use their Lightning Ride GX, or are they going for some sort of retreat and switch situation here? They obviously have the stadium so that they can use the, they can get rid of the shrine, which is what they really want to do. It's kind of awkward for me. If I do lose this Dragapult, I'm probably going to need to discard 2 Boss's Orders, which is not great, because I will need to find an energy. So if my top deck isn't very good, then I could be in a bit of strife here. But if my opponent uses their GX attack, then again, I could be in a pretty good spot, just because I know that there's no way for my opponent to realistically take a one-shot onto my Dragapult. So it's a bit of a 50-50 here, just depending on what our opponent decides to do. They're attaching the Escape Board to the active, so we might see a retreat here into the Bolton. Getting rid of 2 energy would be a little bit awkward. Sorry, 1 energy would be a little bit awkward. They go for the Dance of the Ancients, though. Can they potentially get themselves a knockout this turn? I think those extra energies will actually do the job. This Bolton now will be able to take a big knockout, and most importantly, they will be able to put themselves in a really strong spot when it comes to my next turn, because there's not a lot I can realistically do here apart from hope that I top deck energy. If I top deck energy, I could really have a chance, but I'm not entirely sure. The Shrine obviously gone. We've top decked energy, so that's fantastic. We could potentially steal ourselves a little bit of a game here. We've got the energy attachment for the Dragapult VMAX. We've got the reset stamp as well. We'll go for the Stellar Wish and see what we find. A Shrine of Punishment. That seems pretty good. We can grab that and start creating some havoc with those Shrine ticks. And it could potentially be enough to put us in range. If we gust up this PikaRom here, we might actually be able to sneak ourselves a victory. We gust that Raichu, sorry. We're going to do 130 to it, so it'll be on 160. An extra tick will be 170, so they'll be pretty close to being knocked out. We could realistically get a little bit lucky here if everything goes well. We'll discard an energy and hope that that is enough, and then we'll go for the reset stamp. We could potentially take the knockout on the Jirachi as well and let the Shrine do all the damage for us. This is an interesting position to be in. We don't want our opponent to draw out of this. So let's get rid of that Jirachi. It's not ideal, but the Shrine ticks, if we can keep that Shrine in play, then we could very easily steal the march on this one. 170 onto the active. It ticks again, it'll go to 180. Ticks again, it'll go to 190. We are actually pretty close to being able to knock this out, and if our opponent has to attack into our Dragapult here, then we could actually win the game next turn, especially if they don't disrupt our hand here. So if that Shrine stays in play and that Raichu attacks into the Dragapult, then we really could just win the game. Gusting out the Pikachu and placing 5 onto the Raichu will do it because of the Horror Psychic energy. So hopefully that is the case for us here. If we can manage that, we'll be in a really strong spot. Obviously, winning a game against a quality player playing PikaRom with Dragapult is always a good way to start. So if we can manage it, we might just be able to get ourselves across the line. So wait and see here. What is our opponent planning on doing here? What is James's plan? Is he going to Lightning Ride to move that Raichu out of the active? Does he have something like a boss potentially to avoid that 20 damage tick? That could be a little bit interesting. No, just goes for the Lightning Ride for the half hit and retreats into the Bolton. So with all of these ticks with Shrine here, I'm actually going to be able to win this game. I'll be able to use Boss's Orders and then bring up that Dedenne. That's going to be perfect for us, and we will be A-OK, ready to take that knockout. Fantastic stuff for me. Feeling really positive. Hopefully we can go into Game 2 and get a win there as well. So in speaking to James after that particular game, he asked what cards I had in my hand at that instant. because he was thinking about that boss's orders. I think he had access to it, so unfortunately didn't play it there and ended up on the losing end, but that's okay. He's got a chance to bring it back here. I, again, have this really awkward start. I don't want to play this Dragapult into the active. I will rather lose that Zigzagoon tick than put the Dragapult down, because if that Zigzagoon gets knocked out, I'm not too fussed. But if a Dragapult gets half hit, I really do not like that. So we'll leave that Zigzagoon there, and hopefully it can buy us some time. If they don't get the full blitz on their second turn, then that's a-okay. If they do, they do, and we lose the Zigzagoon. It's not a problem. Looks like they're going for Electro Power here. Maybe not an ideal start. There's two Jirachis down, which isn't super great for them. Those Jirachis are going to be locked into play, but as long as they don't put down a third basic Pokemon like that, they shouldn't be in too much of a problem. We've managed to find ourselves Mysterious Treasure here, and this is a really interesting place to be, because we could potentially Marnie our opponent here, but we've got all of the things that we need already. It's kind of awkward because I really want to get myself going here, but I can't really afford to lose out on getting this VMAX. So I'm just looking around in my deck here. I've got plenty of energy. I've got one Dragapult VMAX in the deck, so I may never actually find this card again. I might just have to grab it and hold it, because two VMAXs being prized is a big problem for Dragapult. I think we're just going to have to sit on this and hope for the best. Very unfortunate. If I had managed to have three in there, then maybe it would have been okay to go for the research. But in hindsight, probably not the best Mysterious Treasure anyway. Could have potentially done something else with that. Now my opponent probably knows that I have a supporter of some description. I got rid of a Marnie, and I also have the Dragapult in my hand. So they could very easily Marnie us here, and it would be a big problem. But they're more likely to go for Guzma and Hala anyway. They need to get themselves set up with a PikaRom. So there was no energy last turn. They need to essentially do it in one turn as they normally would. They've got Pikachu, Zekrom, and Raichu here. That means there's probably a Guzma Hala or another tag call in hand. And we'll see what it is. They need to get the Jirachi out of the active, but Guzma and Hala can manage that. I need to get some energy into the discard pile as well, but again, Guzma and Hala can do that. Guzma and Hala is actually pretty good for this deck. Like, I don't know if you've noticed that, but it tends to be pretty solid. They've got a really big hand here as well, going for Volkner, so no Guzma and Hala just yet, but their hand is big enough that they could just have everything that they need. That tag call there probably would have gotten the Guzma Hala if they did have access to it, so you would think that it would be a pretty easy get here for our opponent. They're going for the Escape Board and a attachment. Looks like the Boltund is the way to go. Again, they'll attach and retreat. So this is obviously a really strong strategy against Dragapult, because it is so much more difficult for Dragapult to deal with Boltund than it is something like Dedenne, which a non-Jirachi build would use. But I've managed to keep myself a hand here. I've got my Dragapult VMAX, I've got my energy, so I can probably reset stamp them out of 7 cards, or put them down to 6. I don't know whether that's the right play or not. It's always awkward. You have to presume that they have a good hand there. I knew they had the Raichu, so we may as well get rid of it and have another go. We've got a whole bunch of cards here that we need to play. We need to get this Zigzagoon out of the active, so a Scoop Up Net is pretty critical here. We can just have a look and see with our Energy Spinner. Whether we want to thin that out or not is another question. There's 4 and 3, so every switch out that we have in the deck is there. What we'll do is we'll just Acro Bike. We'll see whether we can get there. We'll grab another Acro Bike just in case. So we're going to play all 3 of these. Isn't it always the way that you play Acro Bike and then get another Acro Bike? It's very weird. Grab ourselves Shrine of Punishment and then Acro Bike again. We find the Scoop Up Net, but we have to get rid of the stamp, which is very unfortunate. I probably don't want to play down this Shrine either. I'd rather keep that in play. And it's really going to suck here, because one of the keys for Dragapult is that you want to get a knockout on a Jirachi as soon as possible so that you don't need to worry about spreading this damage around. So I'm not super happy with the fact that I only got the one Zigzagoon. I will tick the Jirachi once. We'll play down the Shrine, play down the Dragapult, and then I think I'm just going to go for like a Dedenne here, just to try and get myself into that knockout. I think maybe I'm looking a little bit too closely at the Jirachi knockout here. It probably was fine just to hit into the PikaRom with all 5 of these ticks, but it's definitely okay to go for it. We do miss though, which means that unfortunately that Jirachi will survive, and we'll just lob all that damage onto the PikaRom now that we can't get the knockout. So very unfortunate, and now we're left in this really weird spot where our opponent could potentially get the march on this game. If they are able to tag bolt, then they can take lots of prizes very quickly, and that Shrine of Punishment not only ticking down on my opponent's Pokemon, but also on my Dedenne. So every turn that Dedenne gets closer and closer to being knocked out, and tag bolt obviously would do it pretty comfortably anyway. So if they go for the full blitz here, then they will take 20 damage. We'll be able to hit into them again and get another Dragapult powered up. So it's not the end of the world, but I am a little bit concerned just about like a Bolt Storm here. There's not really much that I can do to deal with that, apart from just taking a knockout on the Boltund and hoping that I'm able to get the rest of my prizes down the line. If my opponent can replace the stadium, then I am very, very far away from winning this game. And Mallow and Lana is also quite frustrating. They're going to be able to Mallow and Lana all of that damage off of the Boltund, retreat into a Jirachi, and then even half hit again into the active with their Boltund. So not ideal. Not ideal at all, but it's not the end of the world. I at least know that I've got 2 or 3 more turns in this game, depending on how things go. So they're going for a tag switch here. They might be looking at something like a Raichu to paralyze my Dragapult, or they could just be going for the full blitz. Looks like that's what's going to happen here. They'll take 20 damage from the Horror Psychic Energy. And now I have to decide, where are my prizes going to be coming from? Are they coming from this active PikaRom, or are they going to be coming from that Raichu? So we'll see what happens here. We'll go for the Mysterious Treasure. We'll get rid of the Mime. They play no Scoop Up, so it doesn't matter. I know I don't have access to that VMAX just yet, so I need to get a prize somewhere. And I might be able to sneak it from this Jirachi here. If I can get the VMAX off of the prizes, then I give myself a chance in this game. Like, it's not going to be impossible if I can find the VMAX off of the prizes, but the fact that I need to kill this Jirachi means that I'm not putting pressure on the Raichu, which means I'm not likely to get myself into a good position to win the game. So I'm not super happy with this. I don't even have the extra Zigzagoon left to take the extra damage, so these prizes have not been kind to me. I can hit into this here, I'll take the knockout, and I just have to hope and pray that I get the 1 in 3 on the prizes, that I find myself the VMAX. If that is the case, if I can find it, then I might be able to, but unfortunately no, not even the Zigzagoon here, so in a bit of an awkward spot. I might need to attack with just a Dragapult V, and that is very unfortunate. Not being able to use the VMAX here means that I probably find myself in a really awkward spot. I can at least hope, if my opponent attacks with the PikaRom into the Dragapult, then I know that I'm only 1 Scoop Up Net away from being able to get myself some Dragapults, but they could super easily just tag switch, attach an energy, and then gust out the Dragapult, and it looks like that's what they are trying to do here. If they can get this big knockout, it is going to be almost impossible for me to win this game. Although, to be fair, the fact that Vulcan has been played means it is unlikely that my opponent will be able to do that. They might instead just choose to full blitz again, and that even that is a super, super powerful move. Here comes the tag switch, so all the energy are on the active PikaRom. They're going to go for the tag bolt and try and take the knockout here on the Dedenne and the Dragapult VMAX. Maybe even put the damage onto the Dragapult V. That's probably a stronger move. Means that the Boltund is very likely to be able to win the game next turn. I think the fact that I didn't get the VMAX here means that I am in a bit of strife. I could still potentially get there. If I manage to find a Scoop Up Net off of a Jirachi and then, like, I don't know, somehow retreat and get myself a VMAX as well, that would be a big deal. They're actually going for the knockout on the Jirachi here. Fair enough too, it's a 3-card hand, so might find it a little bit more difficult for me to take the knockout. That actually opens up an interesting route of play here, where I could potentially try and leave this Dragapult in the active and hope that my opponent can't get themselves a knockout. Really unfortunate to lose the Jirachi as well. That Escape Board would have been super powerful. We'll grab the Dragapult V, we'll play that down, and then research. Well, not even playing the Dragapult down, fair enough. We'll research. If we find a Scoop Up Net, we could potentially get some prizes, but alas, It is not to be. I think now I am just hoping that my opponent can't get the knockout. It is super, super likely that they can. I don't think they've played too many Electro Powers. I will at least be able to take a few prizes here, but the 2 damage counters... the 210 damage is not going to be too hard for them to get. Here come my prizes: Dragapult VMAX, Dragapult VMAX, and also a Shrine of Punishment. 3 cards that you probably say will be required in this matchup. So, unfortunate there. They're going to go for the quick ball. All they need now is a couple of energy and a supporter of some description. It looks like they're going to be going just for a boss here. Now, as long as they've got an energy in hand, they can just boss the Dedenne and win the game, and that seems fair enough. It is unfortunate, but that's the way that it goes, and they would have been able to do that regardless, actually. No matter what had happened, playing that Dedenne down in the early game has just cost me here. Unfortunate, but it's not unlikely, not unreasonable, and I was gunning to try and find those VMAXs. So, we'll go into Game 3. I'll be going first, and this is my chance to get into that round 10. Here we go. Round 10. Hopefully I can find myself the victory here. I will be going first, which is pretty solid, so I hope that I can get myself a decent start here. We've got ourselves a Dragapult again, and an energy, so that's really good. We've got the energy for next turn, as well as a supporter, so that's great, but we still don't have that Jirachi, and I did mention how important it is to try and get that Jirachi as quickly as possible, so that our opponent can't just take those easy prizes. We found a Marnie and a Boss's Orders off of our top decked cards here, so hopefully we can get ourselves into like an Escape Board and a Jirachi here. We'll go for the quick ball. We'll grab that Jirachi, put it into the bench, and then Acro Black will probably... Oh, that's not super helpful. We're probably looking for the Escape Board here. If we can find it, that would be great. We don't find it. We actually find a Dragapult V. So what I might do is I might just play down this one as well, and attach to the bench, so that it's not like the end of the world if the active gets hit into. It's not ideal, obviously, but you know, it's okay. It's not great, but it's not the end of the world. So we've got a Dragapult V on the bench now. That's probably going to have 150 damage done to it, but now at least we're not going to lose the attachment, which is always important. Now, our opponent finds Thunder Mountain off of the Jirachi, and that's super good. That means that our opponent's going to be able to play a whole bunch of other supporter cards. They don't need to use Guzmahala. Here come the 2 Electro Powers, so it's a good idea that I benched that Dragapult, and a Dedenne gets rid of 2 Lightnings and a Speed Lightning as well. But unfortunately, having to attach to the Dedenne here, that usually is not a good sign. You'd rather that energy go to literally anything else, but it looks like they've found a tag call off of those 2 cards, so they might still be able to sneak an attack here. It's not super ideal. They're going to need something like Energy Switch or Tag Switch plus Tapu Koko, so if they are able to do that, then they could potentially get there, but it's now looking less likely that they're going to be able to. Those 2 Electro Powers being used up early could potentially come back to bite them if they don't get this attack off. If they can't get the full blitz, then I'm feeling a little bit more comfortable that I'm going to be able to get a little bit further in this game. All I need to do is get the Dragapult out of the active if they do miss. If they don't, then obviously I won't need to worry about getting it out of the active. It will be out of the active. So we'll see. This tag call taking quite a long time for James here. Obviously, trying to make the right decision. It is important. It's game 3 of a game at the very end of the tournament, so you want to make sure that you're doing the right thing. We've found PikaRom and a Guzmahala. So if our opponent has all of those cards that they need, we could potentially see that attack, but you would think that if they had it, they would have gone for it a little bit quicker than they currently are. The energy attachment to the Dedenne makes it very difficult. So we will see whether we can maintain some pressure here. Our hand's really good. We've got Research and Marnie. I think Research is going to be the way to go here. We need to find ourselves that Escape Board if we can. And we've also managed to find the Dedenne on our opponent's side of the field and their Thunder Mountains down already. So if we can get the Shrine of Punishment down, that means that we're guaranteed to get the Shrine in play. At some point, it will stick. So that is very good, as long as both of them aren't prized again. Playing down the PikaRom here. This is not ideal. We could just be seeing a pass here. Yeah, unfortunate for our opponent, but just a pass. And we've found a Scoop Up Net here. That's not super good for us. We're just going to have to throw that away. It doesn't really do anything, which is unfortunate. We find Shrine and Escape Board, as well as a single Zigzagoon here. Now, that's very unfortunate because the Zigzagoon would have been really useful if we had have had it before when we had the Scoop Up Net. Unfortunately now, not super great, but, you know, still definitely workable. We've got the VMAX as well, which is important. We've got 2 energy for our second Dragapult. This now is a really good position to be in because we have pretty much everything that we need. We're going to take a prize, we're going to knock out this Jirachi here, and we will Zigzagoon. Possibly, we're going to save that. We don't need to play it right now. Our opponent hasn't really touched Marnie this game, so there's no real risk, although you may as well do it, you know, may as well. Let's get it out of the way. And the best thing here is we take the knockout on the Jirachi and put a bunch of damage onto a PikaRom, because that is the Pokemon that's coming into the active next turn. Go for the prizes and find a Quick Ball, which is good because that's an out to Dedenne if we need to find some more cards next turn. Obviously, it is unlikely that our opponent can realistically do anything, but they could potentially go for a GX here. With their Dedenne. Tingly Return would paralyze us, which would be quite frustrating, and it would return that Dedenne to their hand, which I'm not a massive fan of. We might need to find another Escape Board here, actually, so the Quick Ball in hand for Dedenne might be useful. Played down another Jirachi. Obviously, that's not going to be that big of a deal unless they play down a third basic, but that Marshadow will be gone before the end of the turn. It will remove our Shrine of Punishment. So we have to obviously expect that this is going to happen. Tapu Koko coming down now. They're going to be able to get their energy onto PikaRom. Can they manage to get themselves 3 there? The Dedenne comes through. They get rid of a Eldegoss and a reset stamp, and that's both stamps gone now, so the chances of them being able to stamp us to a low hand size is actually almost 0. Although, to be fair, I'm more likely to want to try and get the damage off of these 2 Dedennes anyway. Here comes the Tapu Koko. Do they have Energy Switch or even like a Tag Switch, sorry, that would be really good. They're gonna have to go onto the PikaRom here because they can't Tag Switch the Speed Lightning Energy, but they do find Switch, so they keep that Dedenne alive, and the Full Blitz here means that there's that extra damage going onto us, extra energy, sorry, going onto the Raichu. So this is not a bad spot to be in. It's not bad at all. We've got the Quick Ball. We're going to need to Dedenne here because we need to find some extra cards. I'd really like to find our second VMAX. If we can do that, then it's going to stop any kind of awkward GX attacks from a PikaRom. We can scoop up the Zigzagoon. It's a matter of where we place this damage. What I might do is I might just place it onto the active. If I can try and get a knockout this turn on that active, then that would be really, really big. Unfortunately, no knockout this turn. The Shrine of Punishment would have been required. We can put it onto 90 and then do 130. We would have needed a little bit of extra work here, but we do find the VMAX, which is good. And we also have access to Boss's Orders if we want it. We don't necessarily need to use it here, but if we want Boss, we can use it because we've got access to it. The question is, do we play the Scoop Up now or do we hold it? We could use, I'm kind of thinking here it might have been worth just holding on to that Scoop Up because we needed to get the Jirachi out of the active. But what I will do here is I will max Phantom. It's actually really interesting. Holding on to that probably would have been better, but not, you know, it's not going to happen here. We will max Phantom and we'll probably place that 50 damage onto the Dedenne. We might spread some of this damage around actually. If they can't disrupt our hand here, then we are going to be able to win this game. But obviously, Mallow and Lana is a real possibility. PikaRom could just have all of that damage removed, so it's not ideal. Probably should have held on to the Scoop Up now. Now that I'm thinking about it, really should have held on to it. But it's okay. They're going for Volkner here. They can't stamp, so I'm not worried about that. The fact that there's no Marnie means that I think we are going to go on to win this game because Mallow and Lana hasn't been played. So I'm starting to feel slightly more relaxed now. Even if something does go awry and they take the knockout, we can at least reset Stamp and stop our opponent from being able to win the game. But I'm thinking that it may very well be the end here for our opponent. They're going for the tag call, so it might be just a case of I'm going to pick this up and I'm going to use Mallow and Lana next turn, but it's not going to be enough. The boss in our hand means that we will be able to win, and the Scoop Up Net for the Zigzagoon won't be punished here. we will be able to just go into the Dragapult and win this game, presuming, of course, that our opponent doesn't manage anything else here. They've gone for the Tag Bolt. They'll just take the knockout on the VMAX, and that will be the game. The third game there, much more comprehensive than the first two. The first two very, well, the first one very close. The second one not quite, but that's okay. We've got the boss. We'll gust out that Dedenne, and then Max Phantom will win the game. So there it is. That is my top 16 rounds, I guess. I had 3 that we kind of showed off in this video because there was obviously the bit of the bad draws from our opponent in that first game, but that's okay. In the end, getting across the line against 2 PikaRom makes me feel pretty good. I've only got the semi-finals and losers finals to go. I could very easily find myself in the top 16 tournament if I'm able to get a little bit of luck. I know now I'm playing up against a Dragapult deck next round. So check out the channel in the next couple of days. You'll see that top 6 game being played for you. If I can manage to win that semi-final, then I will be into losers finals. Very, very exciting. Thank you very much for coming along and experiencing this one with me. I didn't think I was going to be able to get this far, but a little bit of luck goes the right way sometimes. If you've enjoyed it, then please consider subscribing. There's a button up above the Sableye right now that you can click to subscribe. On the left-hand side are some videos that YouTube thinks that you'll like. And on the right, we've got a playlist of some description. I don't know what it is. It could be anything. I don't know. We'll figure it out as we go along. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you next time for more from the Sableyes. Bye.